Good afternoon once again to our listeners on Parliament Radio 105.5 FM, our viewers on the Parliament channel, and those of you joining us on the World Wide Web via the Parliament's YouTube channel ParlView and via our website www.ttparliament.org. We're just a few seconds away from the resumption of the proceedings of the Standing Finance Committee, and so without further ado, we take you over to the chamber for the resumption.
Okay, the meeting of the Standing Finance Committee is resumed, and we are at Head 23, Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs. Head 23, Ministry of Attorney General and Legal Affairs, $252,999,100. I will now invite the Minister in the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs to make a brief opening statement not exceeding 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs in September last year became an entity of one with the merger of a previous Ministry of Legal Affairs and the Ministry of the Attorney General. And I'm happy to report to the wider public of Trinidad and Tobago that after a year under the transitioning of the PS and a number of other deputy PSs who ably assisted her, we have come to, I think, a very good point in the merger of these two ministries into one. And I'm happy to report as well today that after a very extended period of time, the move from Cabildo chambers and other buildings by this ministry is taking place to the Legal Affairs Tower at the Government Plaza. So after all of those years of the Government Plaza being completed and in a state of readiness, we have finally made the transition across, and we've achieved that in the space of a year. And that is something that I'd like to commend the Permanent Secretary and her staff for, because they've really gone over and above. This ministry will continue to serve the public, especially through the legal affairs side, the company's registry, the land registry, and other areas. And we will continue to serve the public of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honourable members, the question is that the sum of $252,999,100 for Head 23, Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs, stand part of the schedule. Honourable members, the sum of $252,999,100 for Head 23, Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs, is comprised of monies proposed for expenditure under the following subheads and items to be found in the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure and the draft estimates of the development program. We now proceed to consider the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure. Subhead 01, Personal Expenditure, page 154. Item 001, General Administration, page 154. Item 00.
Could I ask a question, Madam Chair?
Yes, member for Caroni Central.
Under salaries and cost of living 01, the actual expenditure in 2015 was 26 million plus. In 2016, the estimates were 22 plus. In 2016, revised estimates 19 plus. And then the estimates for 2017 is 39 or $20 million more. I see the note in the explanation section about vacant posts with incumbents. But can you explain to me, is this going to be a series of new hirings? Is that it? Or is it is it to confirm people in posts that already exist?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Through you, the first point is that, as I said at the outset, is a merger. So what existed in legal affairs comes across.
Okay.
But then to answer your question, and in particular the note in the explanation column, it is that we are making a very, very conscious effort and drive to get those who exist, because of course it's really legal officers, so it's lawyers in the chief state, in the solicitor generals, etc. To get those who have been on contract employment, confirmed through the Judicial and Legal Services Commission, including lawyers at the Director of Public Prosecution's office, confirmed into the permanent
But part of
establishment.
it is also because of the bringing together of the
Correct.
Okay.
Item 002, Law Commission, page 155. Item 003, Equal Opportunity Commission, page 155. Item 004, Legal Affairs, page 156. Item 005, Law Reform Commission, page 156. Item 007, Intellectual Property Office, page 157. Subhead 02, Goods and Services, page 157. Item 001, General Administration, pages 157 to 158. Member for Naparima.
Page 157, item 08, rent lease, office accommodation and storage, an increase of 800,000. In view of the fact that I understand you said you're moving into the government plaza, what would account for that significant?
What it is yes, we are moving into Government Plaza, but it really means the giving up of a couple of smaller buildings. But of course, there is a rental arrangement with moving into the Government Plaza. It being a 22-story floor, for example. Today we've moved out of Moda Live on Frederick Street, which is only a couple of stories. So of course, you lose that rent. You no longer have to pay that rent, but there's been an increase in moving to a 22-floor building. So that's what it is.
So technically, it's not a rent. It's an accommodation expense.
Correct.
Okay.
Item 002, Law Commission, page 159. Item 003, Equal Opportunity Commission, pages 159 and 160. Item 004, Legal Affairs, pages 160 to 161. Item 005, excuse me, Naprima.
61, contract employment, item 16, 161. Oh, sorry. Yes, there's a decrease in contract employment. Is this because they're moving
Of the merger,
over?
correct.
they're moving over to the permanent establishment?
Well, first of all, you see, this is under the legal affairs section. So yes, there will be some movement over to the permanent establishment. What we've also sought to do over the period of time is do a reconciliation of the needs, because you've now merged two ministries into one.
Member for Vancouver South.
As a follow-up, you said, Minister, that there was a merger, and
That
there's
means a
been
joining of two.
right. So, and there's some movement of employees from legal affairs into the office of the Attorney General. How many
Go on.
employees have been moved over, and how many employees have lost their jobs?
But first of all, no, that's not what it is. I mean, what you're doing is you're merging two former ministries. It becomes one ministry.
Fine.
But it doesn't mean that the staff who are in legal affairs now move to become the staff in the Attorney General's office. They're two very specific roles, different roles, and that type of thing. So there has been a minimal reduction of staff, but there has been a
When you say
merger.
minimal, could you quantify?
Well, as you would recall in our budget
I'm
presentation,
tracking labor statistics.
yes. So as you would recall in our budget contribution last year when we came in, and I think it came up in the budget contribution this year, for example, there were over 200 ghost employees in legal affairs under the former administration. So by the reduction of those 200 employees who, when I say ghost, it means they did not exist. We did an audit. You went to look for persons who were being paid and cashing their checks, but nobody in the establishment knew who they were. As I say, this was under the former PP administration. So we as a responsible ministry now got rid of those persons. So it's really the reduction of the ghosts
if I
and
could,
the corruption.
if I could just ask some follow-up questions, because you said that you was able to track 200 ghost employees, and there were a number of checks that were cashed. Could you provide to this meeting the value of those checks that have been cashed and the list of the names of the people who these checks were made out to, and what judicial remedy that you are seeking?
First of all, what I'd like to say is we reduced the number from over 400 to 169. And then what we did, as I indicated in the budget debate, is we have particularized all of those items, including the provision of the documentary evidence, for example, in the form of encashed checks. That has been passed to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and in particular the fraud squad. And therefore, the fact of the matter is there is an active police investigation ongoing. So I don't want to provide that information, especially to this House, in light of the fact there's an active police investigation going on.
But you see, through you, Madam Chair, this is very important information that I've been hearing about for more than 13 months. And I think that as a member of this House and this meeting, I should be privileged enough to be provided with such information, because I want to assist. I want to assist.
Member, in the interest of time, you know, therefore, even if you are so privileged, this goes out elsewhere. So if there's a question, I'll allow your question.
I am guided, but I'm not satisfied with the information.
Okay. Naparimo.
Thank you. All I need with respect, you see that casts a cloud on a number of professional people and people of integrity, myself included. I would like to know.
You weren't in the ministry.
I know, I'm part of the opposition. All I would like to know is the date that you forwarded this information to the police. So I have a little comfort that it is not talk, but there is action following the talk. So if you could follow us, that date that you gave it to the police.
I can, because it was done under cover of letter. It would have been in October last year. We will get the exact date that it was sent.
Good. So we could be sure that something happened.
Correct. But as I did say in the budget debate, we are not in charge of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
Item 005, Law Revision Commission, which is at page 162. Item 007, Intellectual Property Office, page 162. Item 008, National Center for Dispute Resolution, page 163. Subhead 03, Minor Equipment Purchases, which is at page 163. Item 001, General Administration. Item 002, Law Commission, page 163. Item 003, Equal Opportunity Commission, page 164. Item 004, Legal Affairs, page 164. Item 005, Law Revision Commission, page 164. Item 007, Intellectual Property Office, page 165. Item 008, National Center for Dispute Resolution, page 165. Subhead 04, Current Transfers and Subsidies, page 165. Item 005, Non-Profit Institutions, member for Naparima.
Thank you. Item 005, non-profit institutions. There is an allocation of 49, close to 49 million. Could you give us, what are those expenses and to whom or which institutions?
Just give me one second.
No problem.
Madam Chair, through you, member for Naparima, like you, and I've just sought clarification. If you look underneath, you'd see like 01, legal aid. And then you go down, and so what it is really legal aid. You turn the page, is the Police Complaints Authority, the Criminal Injuries Compensation Board. So it's particularized there under.
It's particularized.
Yes.
And thank you for that clarification. With respect to 01, Legal Aid and Advisory Authority, is this the body that provides legal advice to low-income people?
Correct.
Right? And if that is the case, that is important in terms of equity and whatnot in the society. Why would there be a decrease given what we suspect is increasing poverty and an increased need for this service?
I think what has happened over the last year in particular, there was a particular trial. I wouldn't want to get into the specifics, but it was quite a high-profile trial that attracted quite a large expanse of defense attorneys. That was a one-off, so to speak. So that attracted a higher intake of income to fund the defense of that trial. So this reduction is not expected for the reasons that you've articulated to affect the provision of defense counsel to those who are less fortunate in our society. If it does, we've told the Legal Aid Authority to come to us. Let's talk about it.
Member for Miaro.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Minister, I know some time back there was a conversation to have legal aid extended into some districts through the regional corporations, I think. Is that something still on the drawing board?
It is something that the authority has been looking at. The truth is, with the current economic environment, it is not something that is being particularized at this stage, but there is a recognition on our part, for the obvious reasons, that there needs to be consideration of a mechanism to facilitate those in the rural areas, and in particular those who are less privileged in the rural areas, to be easier for it to be easier for them to access it. So it is something that is being active consideration is being given to.
Member for Princess Dong.
Other transfers after, ma'am.
Member for Couva South.
Just to, with respect to the Legal Aid Authority, Minister, has there been any decision taken to slash the fees of attorneys?
No.
Sure.
As far as I'm aware, no.
Okay. Certainly not for legal advice.
Items 007 households, page 165. Item 009 other transfers, member for Princestown.
Madam Chair, through you to the Honourable Minister. Minister, with respect to line item 02, the Criminal Injuries Compensation Board, can you indicate whether or not there has been a review? I know that from several sectors of the population, there has been continuous clamoring for review of the work done by the Criminal Injuries Compensation Board, and especially with regards to increasing the ceiling in terms of compensation. Could you indicate at this point whether or not over the last year any active review has been undertaken with respect to some of these concerns raised by professionals in both the judicial and legal services?
Yes. The answer is yes, it is something that's on our radar. Consideration is being given to it.
Okay.
Because of course it will mean a policy decision.
So that right now is being actively considered.
Yes.
That we can expect some sort of public notice in terms of what is government's policy or what are the recommendations going forward with respect to the criminal injuries compensation?
Yes.
Member for Caroni Central.
Yeah. Just a quick question, Chair, to the Minister. We have two items here under other transfers, 01 and 04. One says Police Complaints Authority, 17 million. And the other one says Police Complaints Authority, direct charges total. Direct charges, and that is 1.4. The direct charges are for salaries, is that it?
It's actually for the provision of attorneys.
Provision of attorneys.
To assist the
17 million is the operating
correct
budget.
Correct. And if I may, member for Princestown, and you didn't ask the question, but just to make it clear, why for the Criminal Injuries Compensation Board, through you, Madam Chair, there's nothing. It's actually been transferred to the Ministry of National Security.
Member for Kamutu Manzanilla.
Thank you, Chair.
Go over.
Honourable Minister, I know you just indicated to, sorry, thanks. I know you just indicated to member for Caroni Central that it's for operations, but can you expand a little bit more the rationale for the allocation of 17 million for 01 Police Complaints Authority?
That is the amount of money that is allocated to the Police Complaints Authority for them to function on in a nutshell, to function on a day-to-day basis. So it'll cover all of their administrative expenses, all of their running expenses, etc.
This is was there an increase or
This has remained the same.
all right, okay, great, thank you.
Item 010 other transfers abroad, page 166. Honorable members, we will now move on to the draft estimates of the development program. Subhead 09, Consolidated Fund, page 66. Item 004, Social Infrastructure, pages 66 and 67. Item 005, Multi-Sectoral and Other Services, pages 67 and 68. Infrastructure Development Fund, same book, page 270. Item 005, Multi-Sectoral and Other Services, pages 270. Honorable members, the question is that the sum of $252,999,100 for Head 23, Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs, stand part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Excuse me. The sum of $252,999,100 for Head 23, Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs, now stands part of the schedule. Thank you, Mr. Minister, and your Permanent Secretary and the other technocrats. Can we go on now to Head 75, Equal Opportunity Tribunal? And while the ministers and the technocrats take their seats, we are at page 527 of the recurrent expenditure estimates. Head 75, Equal Opportunity Tribunal, $1,829,300. I now invite the Minister of Finance.
No,
Or is it the Minister in the Ministry of the Attorney General?
I will defer to the Acting Attorney General.
Thank you very much. I now invite the Acting Attorney General to make a brief opening statement, not exceeding 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, we are dealing now with the Equal Opportunity Tribunal, a body created by statute and a body that every developed country should have, dealing with complaints with respect to discrimination and the failure to provide equal opportunity. I've heard it bandied about within recent times in the society about discrimination on the basis of age. So I think this is an opportune moment to put on the record that the current legislation as currently drafted and currently in place does not provide for anything with respect to discrimination of age, and those who continue to proffer that, and maybe some even in this chamber, should refrain from trying to attempt to mislead the public. Nevertheless, this is a very important body. It is a body that I suspect over time will begin to pick up and deal with a lot more issues. I am happy to report that I think there's been an increase over the last 5 years of claims before it, and they are disposing of these claims in a most efficient manner in the last 5 years.
Honourable members, the question is that the sum of $1,829,300 for Head 75, Equal Opportunity Tribunal, shall stand part of the schedule. Honourable members, the sum of $1,829,300 for Head 75, Equal Opportunity Tribunal, is comprised of monies proposed for expenditure under the following subheads and items to be found in the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure. We now proceed to consider the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure. Subhead 01, Personal Expenditure, page 527. 001, General Administration, page 527. Subhead 02, Goods and Services, page 527. 001, General Administration, pages 527 and 528. Member for Naparima.
Item 02.
Yes.
And I'm looking and seeing, Honourable Minister, a decrease in almost every line item. Is this indicative of a general de-emphasis of this important institution?
No.
So therefore, how do you justify books and periodicals, a drop of $55,000? So, and I suspect that has to do with research and keeping abreast of developments. I'm being disturbed by the Minister of Finance.
Sorry, yes, Madam Chair, through you. Member for Naparima, this body is going to be in close consultation with the Office of the Attorney General, and we've told them that if there are any items as arise, for example, the one you've just pointed out, that need to be relooked at, then let's have the conversation and deal with it.
Thank you, Chair. Honourable Minister, 0200108. I observe that there's no allocation for rent, lease, office accommodation, and storage. Can you give a rationale for?
Yes. What happens is we pay it directly. The Office of the Attorney, the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs pays that directly for them.
Subhead, Member for Naprimo.
Just clarification. A close relationship with Equal Opportunity Tribunal and the Office of the Attorney General. Ought there not to be an arm's length relationship? I'm just asking in the context of the fact that they may have to adjudicate matters which you have an interest.
From the point of view, yes, the Attorney General in law would be the defendant for claims brought against, civil claims brought against the state. So yes, and thank you for the opportunity to clarify. When I say a close relationship, it's on the administrative side. So it would be the administrative side, the permanent secretary and her support staff having direct contact and link. For example, the same thing with the police service, the police complaints authority. So they will liaise directly with the permanent secretary and her staff, the accounting staff, etc.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Minister, line 16, contract employment. I see there's a reduction. Does that mean that the Office of the Equal Opportunity Tribunal is adequately staffed?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Does that mean that the tribunal, the Equal Opportunity Tribunal, is the office adequately staffed as a result of this
yes,
reduction?
there are 22 members of staff there, and with this line item, again, is a draft and it's an estimate, and the question is if it is insufficient to continue with the current staffing arrangement. Arrangements will be made to via money.
How long does, if a matter comes before the tribunal, how long would it actually take, in terms of staffing and so forth? What is the length, the period of time that you would have a
Well,
matter
I do think
resolved?
that question ties into the staffing arrangements, but it would really depend on the type of matter, and then if there's settlement of the matter along the way, etc. But the Equal Opportunities Tribunal, normally within the space of a year, if it goes through the whole process, there's a resolution.
Member for Shogunas West.
Yeah. Are we on page 528?
Yeah, we are
You
doing
can get there.
page 527 and 528.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just, under other contracted services, I'd just like to find out, the Equal Opportunity Commission made a recommendation for certain amendments to the Act. Is that matter before the Law Reform Commission or a contracted expert in the area?
I'm not understanding. Are you asking me whether the Equal Opportunities Commission, before making certain announcements, sought and obtained legal advice under the contracted services line item?
Or whether they have in fact gone further than that, utilized contracted services to get those amendments in a form that it could be brought into legislation?
I'm being asked quite correctly not to mix up the tribunal and the commission.
Okay.
Yeah, understood.
Subhead 03, minor equipment purchases,
Good point.
page 529, 001, general administration, page 529. Honorable members, the question is that the sum of $1,829,300 for head 75 Equal Opportunity Tribunal stand part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The sum of $1,829,300 for head 75 Equal Opportunity Tribunal now stands part of the schedule. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Technocrats.
Thanks a lot.
Head 09, Tax Appeal Board. And while we await the situation of the Technocrats and the Minister, page 45.
Thank you. He didn't.
Head 09, Tax Appeal Board, $4,538,500. I will now invite the Minister of Finance to exercise his option to make a brief opening statement not exceeding 5 minutes.
It will be very brief. The Tax Appeal Board has the jurisdiction to hear and determine appeals from decisions of the Board of Inland Revenue, specifically objections to assessments and other decisions of the Board of Inland Revenue. The Tax Appeal Board is appointed by the President, the members, and it's headed by a chairman who shall be an attorney of not less than 10 years standing. And the other members are appointed by the President from among persons as appear to the President to be qualified by virtue of their knowledge or experience in law, commerce, finance, industry, accountancy, taxation, or the valuation of property.
Are you completed, Minister?
I done.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, the question is that the sum of $4,538,500 for head 09 Tax Appeal Board stand part of the schedule. Honorable members, the sum of $4,538,500 for head 09 Tax Appeal Board is comprised of monies proposed for expenditure under the following subheads and items to be found in the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure and the draft estimates of development program. We now proceed to consider the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure. Subhead 01, personal expenditure, page 45. Item 001, general administration, page 45. Member for Naparima.
Thank you, Chairman. In the context of the need to reduce expenditures, one, in the context of the significant number of government buildings available to house, accommodate government departments, why we continue to see, significant expenditures on rent and lease accommodation? So the question is there any thinking of housing these in the Tax Appeal Board in a government-owned premise?
All right, member, just 1 minute. We had 001, general administration.
Oh.
Are you talking about rent?
Sorry, I
Okay.
thought we had 02.
No, not as yet. Member for Chaguanas West.
01, salaries and cost of living allowance. Does the tax appeal have its full complement of adjudicators? Good.
Member.
Yes.
Thank you.
Member for Caroni Central.
I wanted to ask, the Tax Appeal Board, I suspect, operates now on the basis of the current functions of Inland Revenue. If the mandate of Inland Revenue were to be extended in any way or for any reason, would the role of the Tax Appeal Board also cover such new mandates?
The Tax Appeal Board has jurisdiction over appeals coming out of assessments with respect to income tax, corporation tax, unemployment levy, petroleum tax, stamp duty, Water and Sewerage Act, Customs Act, value-added tax, anti-dumping and countervailing duties, financial institutions, Tourism Development Act, etc. The purpose of the board is to act, well, as its name implies, it's an appeal tribunal.
Yes.
So it is an entity that persons who are aggrieved with the assessment by the taxation authorities can appeal to. So whether we have a revenue authority or we have a board of inland revenue or anything else for that matter, once that entity, with whatever the entity is, whether it's inland revenue or customs or whoever, imposes a tax, persons are entitled to appeal to the Tax Appeal Board. So yes, if the revenue authority replaces the Board of Inland Revenue and takes over the function of assessment of tax, then persons would be able to appeal to the Tax Appeal Board. Okay?
Member for Caroni East.
In that context, I just want to ask if
I thought you said you were
you would be, yeah, my friend. If you'd be kind enough to give us a little idea of, it might be security matters, I don't know, but how many cases are before the tax appeal board at the moment?
Last question.
Not for you, I'll ask.
You did promise me you're going home, you know. I can't trust you at all.
Don't say that, come on.
Okay, the total number of appeals, based on the information I have, total number of appeals allowed in the period 2015 to 2016, 70. The total number of appeals dismissed, 18. Total 18. Total number of appeals struck out, 27. The total number of appeals withdrawn, 10. So you had 70 appeals allowed and 35 others either dismissed, struck out, or withdrawn, making a total of 105 matters that were dealt with in the period 2015 to 2016.
If I may be permitted to ask my friend a last question.
You promise me.
Madam Chair, it's a little thing we have by the side. How long would an average matter take before the tax appeal board for its resolution? Approximately.
3 days. But from the time they file it.
From the time it's filed, within maybe about 2 months.
They would deal with it?
Yeah,
and then it will, and how long to take a decision?
It takes maybe about 2 months after that.
Okay. Well, I am quite surprised to learn that the tax appeal board deals with matters within a month or two of them being filed. The appeal process takes about 3 days, and then a decision is rendered within another month or two. I'm quite surprised to learn this. Yeah. So I think we're all surprised to learn.
So you see,
it's very quick.
You see the importance of asking the question?
All right, all right.
Subhead 02, Goods and Services, page 45, item 001, General Administration, pages 45 and 46. Member for Naparima.
Ask a question about rent. I think you know where it's going. And specifically, would you consider a lease rental
Could you
option?
give me just give me the page?
08, it's on page 45, 0208.
Yes, there is no mystique in terms of where the tax appeal board would be housed. And I can assure you that if suitable government-owned accommodation becomes available, we would place them there. Okay?
Very good. Right. Member for Shagonasees.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a quick one. Item 16, 0216. How many persons employed and contract at the department? 16. Yeah, contract. How many persons are employed?
5. But is there?
Subhead 03, Minor Equipment Purchases, page 47, item 001, General Administration, page 47. Honorable members, we will now move on to the draft estimates of development program. Subhead 09, Development Program, Consolidated Fund, page 15, item 005, Multi-sectoral and other services, page 15. Honorable members, the question is that the sum of $4,538,500 for subhead 09, Tax Appeal Board, stand part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The sum of $4,538,500 for head 09 Tax Appeal Board now stands part of the schedule. And I'd like to thank the technocrats from the Tax Appeal Board for attending. And therefore, the Standing Finance Committee is now suspended to Monday, the the 17th of October 2016 at 10:30 a.m. I wish to thank members for the schedule has been set by the Leader of the Opposition, and the first will be the Ministry of Health. We are reminded that the Ministry of Tourism comes on that day in substitution for the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs. Okay, so thank you very much, members, again for your participation. And in spite of the high degree of probing, we have conducted the people's business in a generally civil and cooperative atmosphere. Thank you very much.